So several months ago, I made this video in which I crocheted a bird from one of these bloody stupid amigurumi wheel things. If you're interested in hearing my full thoughts on this, if me calling it a stupid amigurumi wheel thing didn't give it away, I will link that video down in the description. But suffice to say, I was not impressed with this at all. And I did say at the end of that video that I was going to return at some point and crochet my take on this pattern. And today is that point. So unfortunately, even though I know I kept the label from the original bird, I cannot find it anywhere. I have looked and I've looked, and over the last couple of months we have had to do a lot of moving stuff around and rearranging, so it's possible it just got lost in the shuffle. So today we're going to have to make do from the picture I yoinked from the website. So this is what the original bird looked like. Oh, and I was going to grab the original amigurumi as well, but that is now in my niece's possession and she did not want to part with it, so I'm not going to upset her. She can keep it. We can make do with the picture. Here's the thing, right? My experience with amigurumi kits is fairly minimal. I think I've only ever crocheted 3 at this point, including this or the bird one, but I do hesitate to call that a kit because really this is just a wheel of yarn, even though it does include a pattern. So I'm sort of on the fence about this one. So we'll call it maybe 3.5 kits I've ever tested. And all of those kits, in my opinion, were either, you know, poor quality to maybe average quality. And the 2 specifically that I'm thinking of that were sort of geared towards beginners, they were just poor patterns. And I don't think just because a pattern is intended for beginner amigurumi makers that is any reason for it to be of lower or poor quality. So I'm going to do my best here today to design a bird that is similar in scope to this one, but is still a nice, a cute amigurumi pattern that beginners would still be able to follow. So setting that aside, I've got to keep this picture up so I don't lose track of what I'm doing. And if I recall correctly, the original body pattern for the bird in this kit was approximately 30 rounds. So that's what we're going to be aiming for with the body. And also another goal I'm setting myself here today is to match the original pieces on the bird. For example, this pattern includes a beak, wings, and feet. I'm going to do the same. If I want to add any additional pieces, that's something that we can determine at the end, but I at least want to get the original pieces down first. So let's stick you up there. We are going to start off with the body. And if you look at the original, it's a very basic shape, which is not a bad thing. It goes out, it goes down, and then it closes at the bottom. I want to give it a little bit more shape than that. So today we're going to give the body a nice sort of figure 8 shape. And I have grabbed out some blue yarn, some red yarn, and some black yarn in which to do so, because the bird that I am taking inspiration from is a ring neck parrot. So we are just going to start off with the same basic shape. You know, 6 single crochet in a magic circle, and then increase by 6 for the first, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 rounds. I don't want to go too wide here because we are going to then increase the body out a little bit further. Not too much. I just want to get like a subtle bit of shaping in there. And that is round 10 done. So I was sort of hoping, if I wanted the entire head and body piece to be approximately 30 rounds, that the head would take up 1/3 of the body. But I think I'm going to have to go over 10 rounds because to me that is just slightly too short, and also I need to taper it down a little bit to get the shaping that I want. And I also need to include one black round between the head and where the body starts because, you know, it's a ring neck parrot. I need to get that in there. So I'm thinking for a nice subtle decline, I will go with decreasing by 3 rather than 6. And I might even do that for 2 rounds. So for round 11, I'll do it in blue, but then round 12 can be the ring neck round. That might work out okay. I mean, the head doesn't have to be exactly 1/3 of the body, and like 30 rounds was just a rough estimate anyway. So I think we're still on track. I just don't want to end up making this too large. Normally at this point in the pattern, I would insert the safety eyes, but I find their placement can be a bit tricky sometimes, specifically for birds, because whether you want to go for a more cartoonish look or a more realistic look, it does make a difference where you actually position those eyes. So for a more realistic looking bird, I would put them either side of the head. But if I want to lean more into the cartoonish vibes, I usually, more often than not, would place them at the front. And I don't know which route I want to go yet. So I'm thinking I will leave the eyes off for now. And then at the end of the project, I'll see where they look best. Because I'm not sure now, and I don't want to put them in one position and then think, oh crap, I should have done it the other way around. So we'll leave that for now and continue on with the body. Snip you. Oh, I really need to get new scissors. All right, with the body, I'm aiming for roughly 20 or so rounds. And the first one I'm going to increase out because, should I work in the back loop only for this? Because that would leave a distinctive ring, wouldn't it? You know what, I might try that. I can always frog my work if I don't like it. Yeah, you know what, I like that. I like how that looks. So we'll leave it for now. I mean, likely I'll be making another version of this at some point. I can always test out working in both loops from my black round and, you know, compare it to this one. See which one I like best. But now, do I want to... Yeah, I want to increase out again. So I'm going to increase out again. And then from that point, I'm just going to finish off the body. That's just going to be fairly straightforward. I'm going to go out, down, and then back in. Although I might stack some of my decreases when it comes to the final couple of rounds. So that will keep the back fairly straight, but the curve will come in like under the stomach. It'll give it that shape. But we'll see. Like I'm not trying to make this overly complex or anything. I'm really trying to keep this as a beginner-friendly pattern. So we will see. About halfway there, and I do think I'm going to proceed with my earlier plan of decreasing at the front to give the belly a nice little curve. So we're going to keep the back straight, belly curved, at least until the last probably couple of decrease rounds. And here we go, body or head and body complete. That is the back. So we do get a bit of the subtle shaping that I want. And you know what? Overall, I'm honestly pretty damn pleased with how this first run turned out. If anything, I could add a little bit more length to the body, and the head might require that, just a couple more rounds in there. But I think that is something that can only really, you know, be determined once I've added the eyes and the beak. Because depending on how large and where I position those, we may be looking at needing a bit more space to work with. But so far, I'm happy with that. So now that that is finished and we had no major issues, I don't have to really change anything at the moment. I want to go on and make the wings. Now, in the original version of this pattern, the wings were they were kind of a tube. I think they were a little bit thicker. Let me consult the picture because I don't have the original with me. Yeah, so they started out thicker and then they narrowed down. So they were a bit of a cone shape. I think we can do a bit better than that. What I'm considering is doing the top portion of the wing, just keeping that, again, nice and basic, maybe a circular shape, folded in half and single crochet together, and then we can just crochet some feathers off of that. So we're still keeping it, fairly simple, just working with like single crochet and chains, but we should get a more interesting shape. Let's pop you in there. So the idea here is to fold this piece in half. So you get like this semicircle half moon shape. And then that will go on the side of the bird. But as part of this piece, I want to add some feathering. So to achieve that, I'm going to keep this folded in half and I'll work into the first stitch, and then I'm going to go straight out of the last stitch. And I will single crochet here. So I'm joining those together. How tall do I want the wings to be? I might go from like a longer feather down to a shorter feather. So let's go 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And 7. So now I want to jump down to the next 2 stitches and I'll join those together. And because I did this first feather 7 single crochet long, I might knock 2 off that total. So we'll do this one 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which means we can single crochet back down the chain for 5. And then I'll do one more feather, so I'll go into these next 2 stitches and knocking off 2 from the total again. We're going to chain 4, which means we single crochet back down for 3. And 3. And I honestly think 3 feathers, can you guys see that? Probably not the best angle, is it? 3 feathers will be more than enough. And because I finished round 4 of my original piece with 20 stitches in total, I've covered 3 here. That should mean there is 9 stitches on each side of this piece left. And I'm just going to single crochet them together. I'm kind of liking that, not going to lie. I'm kind of liking that. And I thought it might be a bit large, but no, I don't think so. Ooh, I didn't really expect that to work out so well on the first attempt, but here we are. And another pin spider update for those of you keeping track. Still haven't found that bloody thing. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about my pin spider because we've honestly had to do so much cleaning out and rearranging over the last couple of months, and I still haven't found it. So I really don't know where it could be. It's very frustrating. I want my pin spider back. Anyway, I will continue looking for that. But first of all, I need to crochet myself a second wing. So I'm just going to take what I did here and replicate it. The only change that is going to need to be made, I think, is just reversing how I did the wings. So on the opposite side, I'm probably going to crochet the piece together first and then add the feathers. Well, there is the second wing all crocheted up and pinned in place. And the look's actually grown on me even more. I do like the shaping of these. I mean, if anything, they could even be a little bit bigger, but I'll leave them as they are for now. The next piece I want to work on is the tail. And for the tail, because, you know, these turned out quite well, if I do say so myself, but because they worked out so well, I want to use these as inspiration for the tail piece. I want to attempt like a very similar thing. So I think I'll start with like a base tail piece, and then off of that, work some tail feathers. Gotta level with you guys, I'm not as pleased with the shape of the tail piece as I was with the wings. Yeah, see that it's not too bad, but I don't know, it's not quite right either. Yeah, I might have to workshop that one later on. Whether it's just adding length to the tail, maybe I can shape it by pinching the top, but I don't really like how that looks either, to be honest. Yeah, we'll leave it for now. We can come back to it later. And I can't even really consult the original image for inspiration because you can't actually see the tail piece in the one provided picture. If I remember correctly from the one that I did crochet, I'm fairly certain that the tail was just like the wings. It was kind of a cone-shaped piece. And like I did with the wings, I want to step it up a little bit, make something more interesting than just that basic shape. But I'll leave you as is, because I want to go on and crochet the beak now. Looking at the beak in the original picture, that was just a triangle pyramid shaped piece. Like with the previous pieces, I do want to up the ante a bit. I want to give this some shaping, make it look a little bit more like a parrot's beak than just a cone that's glued onto the front of the face. So that will be next on the agenda. And for that, I'm going to use a nice bright red. Be a nice splash of color on my little ring neck parrot here. So you can sit there and supervise, and I will crochet a beak. What do we think? The beak too big? Yay or nay? I started off so well with the wings, and I think every subsequent piece I've made since then has just gotten worse and worse. I mean, the beak's not horrendous. Honestly, I was trying to avoid doing just a straight up cone like the original. So apparently I've decided to make a droopy cone. And like, who knows, it could make all the difference once I put the eyes on as well. Because I find that happens, quite a lot. Once you've put your amigurumi together, sometimes it does, it's more cohesive. It looks better once it's all assembled than just like looking at the individual parts with a bunch of pins stuck in them. Like with the tail, I think I'm going to leave the beak piece alone for now. We can make any and all adjustments we want to later on. Which brings me to the final piece, or what should be the final piece of this project, and that is the feet. I know I said I wanted to include all the pieces that were in the original, but I thought the feet in the original were just utterly ridiculous. They were just like two little wobbly bits just hastily thrown on the front. They, in my opinion, it just looks stupid. They just look stupid. So I don't want to go like anywhere near that sort of design. But the thing I find with bird patterns is they don't like always necessarily need feet, because I sort of imagine the feet like tucked up beneath them. So if this guy was sitting on a shelf or on a table or something, the feet would be underneath, so you wouldn't really see them anyway. There are definitely bird patterns out there which I've seen for which feet they work, they enhance the pattern. But in smaller pieces like this, I just don't think they really do. So here is what I'm going to do. Because there were feet in the original, I'm going to crochet some. But I don't know if I'm actually going to assemble the feet. I'll just, crochet them, chuck them on there, we'll see how it looks, and then we can decide whether or not we want to go with the feet in the final finished ring neck bird form. The shaping of that's like okay, it's passable, but I think I might have made it a little bit too large. So put that under there. You know, keep in mind I'm gonna have a second one on there. So I think what I'll do is crochet the same pattern. I won't make any adjustments to that because, yeah, I mean, that's working. Maybe could make the back toe here a bit longer, but I'll keep the same basic shape. I'm just going to drop down a hook size because I'm using a 4 at the moment, and I think just to make it smaller, the best thing to do is pop down to a 3. That's a bit better. Fits much nicer than the original. So we're gonna have to crochet a third one. I'm pleasantly surprised. The feet don't look quite as silly as I thought they might. So we may just have to include them in the final piece. Speaking of which, I really do have all the parts I need at the moment. I did say at the start I would consider, you know, adding additional pieces. When I said that, I was thinking of potentially a crest, something to that effect, even some more feathers just for decoration. But I really don't think it needs it. Especially the crest, like ring neck parrots don't really have a crest. They're not like, you know, sulfur crested cockatoos or anything like that. I think we can just leave this little guy bald as is. And yeah, as for everything else, the wings already have feathers attached. The tail has the feathers attached inbuilt. I just think at this stage, adding anything else just might make the piece too busy. But like with everything, we can change our minds after the fact if we want to. So I'm just going to grab out my needle, which I knew I set aside somewhere, and sew this thing together. The only thing we need to do after that, if we, you know, decide against adding additional pieces, is put in the safety eyes. The front eye or the side eye debate will begin then. And bird reveal. Good news, I like the feet more than I thought I would. Bad news, not loving the beak. Moderate news, the tail is okay. So now there is one final thing we have to do, and that is the eyes. This is going to make or break the piece, I'm telling you. It's going to make or break it. First question we need to answer. Do we want to go 12mm or 14mm? It's a fine line because sometimes eyes on the larger side enhance the cuteness, but there are those rare occasions when they detract from it. So I'm a bit on the fence. Which ones do we want to go for? And I still haven't decided where I want to place them. Side or front? I'm thinking because the beak is fairly large, you know, in comparison to the face, and it takes up most of the front. I might pop them on the sides and see how that looks. You know what? Let's go with 14mm. Let's bet on the bigger side. So I'll grab those out. I think that's a no from me. I wonder if... should we go even larger? Should I get the 16mm out? You know how I said this is going to make or break it? I think we've fallen on the break side of that spectrum. That is the best it's looked so far, so we might just go with the 16mm. I don't know if it's the beak that's causing the issue, but I'm just not enthusiastic about the way the safety eyes are looking. Though I do think the 16mm is the best we've done so far. And obviously they're not glued down at this stage either, so that might help. I could also perhaps shape the head. I can just pull the eyes in a little bit. Overall, I'd probably give that a a C, maybe a C plus if I'm feeling generous. Not my best work, but there's some elements of it that I do really like. I like how the body shape turned out. It's nice and simple, but it's not just a tube. I do like how the wings turned out as well. The rest of the pieces, as I've said, they're all right. The tail, the feathers are all right. I need to do something about this section. Not only for the looks, but also the tail does, you can't see that, can you? The tail in pieces like this usually helps with balance, and that's not too much of an issue at the moment, but I would like to have that stabilizing piece just in case. At the moment, the combination of the beak and the eyes, something about it is just not working for me. I don't know if I made the beak too large, the shaping's not right, the eye placement might be off. I don't know. That's something I'm just going to have to tweak over time. The one pleasant surprise out of this whole pattern was actually the feet. I don't mind how that looks. Like, the feet are partially covered. They're not just like a chunky blob that's stuck on the front like they were in the original pattern. That's just like nice and subtle, and I don't mind that at all. So in the end, I'm glad I included those feet pieces. But I'd be interested to know your thoughts. What do you think about the little ring neck parrot? Another thing is I could make the tail longer too, but my time is over. I'm asking what you guys think. And I'd also like your opinions on like the face and the head. What would you do to improve this section here? I do actually hope I can workshop the head a bit, because I would like to make myself some other colors of ring neck parrots, like the green, the yellow, and I can just have a little flock sitting up on my shelf. But before I do that or anything else, we do need to do. And today's featured creator on the hookup is Talia, or Hooked by Talia, and she says, I started crocheting / crafting over 6 years ago and started focusing more on crocheting in April of 2023. I started designing my own patterns as I want to share this craft with everyone and hopefully spark the want to try it out in others. And to Talia, if you're watching, I hope you have accomplished that goal. It's always really nice. Like, I've had a couple of comments here and there about people saying, you know, they've seen something in my videos and they want to try it for themselves, or they want to start crocheting. And it's just, it brings me genuine pleasure to have sparked that, to use Talia's words, in someone else. So to Talia, I wish you the best of luck with that going forward. Hopefully we can spread this crochet disease far and wide. All of Talia's links will be down in the description, and so will a link to the hookup form if you would like to apply for yourself. Thank you all for watching today. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Share it if you think it's worth sharing, and I will see you in the next one.